Hi, my name is Daryl, and I'm a veteran.
Hey, I'm Travis. I'm an Air Force veteran.
Hey, my name's Jonathan, and I'm a veteran.
Hi, my name's Ashley, and I'm a veteran.
My name is Chad, and I'm a veteran.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with a Vet. My name is Kara Lee. I have a wonderful guest waiting in the wings, as always. But before we get to my wonderful guest, I did want to talk about one of my previous guests, and he has written a book called Unshaken Resolve, and this is by Michael Alexander Payne, a wonderful guest. So if you haven't seen that interview, check it out on YouTube. You can search by his name or Conversations with a Vet, and you can bring that up. You can also purchase the book on Amazon. So that is available for everybody now. So go check it out. It's a great read, a lot of information for leadership. So if that's something that you want to look into, a great resource for you. So without further ado, please help me welcome Wayne Sherry.
Good morning.
Well, good morning, good evening. How are you?
I'm well. You?
I'm doing really well, thank you. So I want to say thank you again for taking the time to come on the channel and have a conversation. I do like to start by asking my guests a little bit about who they were as a child. So who was Wayne as a kid?
Working on a farm, raising cattle, raising horses, of course, chickens, typical farm life. We farmed all down here. We had about 600 some odd acres, I think. We raised cotton. We raised aloe, corn, typical farming in a small community. The only
Nice.
place that we were about 20 some odd miles kind of southwest of Taylor, Texas, in the blackland farmland. So growing up there, I started school first grade in Thrall, Texas, which is another small farming community outside of Taylor. And then my dad, he farmed, my uncle farmed with him, and then they both worked for Taylor Bedding and Manufacturing Company on the side. And that's where my childhood started. And we moved to Florence, where we're at right now. After the farm that we just leased it, so the owner of it to sell, so we had to vacate the premises, and we moved to Florence, Texas. My dad got a job with civil service at Fort Hood, and my uncle moved to Llano, Texas, and he got on with the highway department in Llano, and we've been here ever since. So,
Wow.
Just growing up, typical childhood.
What was your teenage
Running around in
years
the
like?
pastures.
What was your teenage years like before the military?
Yeah. Typical teenage years, I played ball, played baseball, had a little bit of tennis. I couldn't play football because I've got a ankle that has no cartilage, so it would turn on me pretty easy if I didn't watch my P's and Q's. But mainly was baseball, and grew up doing that. I played outfield, played shortstop, and pitcher. So, and then of course run around with close friends and everything else.
Nice.
All the school activities.
So
Typical
what was
years.
it? Yeah. What was it that made you decide that you were going to go into the military? Were you drafted into it, or did you decide to enlist?
No, ma'am, I wasn't drafted. I enlisted. Well, it's like most schools, or rural schools, I should say. All the recruiters would hit the senior class, and start trying to recruit inductees. And I always loved aircraft, planes of any kind, mechanics. And whenever he showed up at our senior class, well, I talked with him at length, and I decided right then that I was going to, join the Air Force. And so this was mid '67, and so I was set. But the only thing about it, I did not have a slot. Whenever I graduated, Air Force did not have a slot. So many people wanted to be in the Air Force instead of the Army. They'd join the Air Force before they'd be drafted into the Army. So, but what they did, when I got close to graduating, my dad was a veteran. He was decorated in World War II.
Wow.
They kind of did a little bit of underhanded deal, I guess you could say. They wrote me up as a sole surviving son of a war veteran, where the draft board could not touch me. And because the Air Force recruiter and the draft board lady that ran the draft board, they were close friends. So they knew what they were doing. And they held a slot where they could not draft me until Air Force had a slot for me to slip into, which right after I graduated in '67. So picked up, and they sent me down to San Antonio, to Lackland for my induction, inducted to the Air Force, or my PT, I guess you could call it. That's about what it amounted to. So that's how I got in. But I did not want in. In fact, I got a draft in the mail right before I left, but it was no good since I was already enlisted in the Air Force.
Right. So tell me what it was like saying goodbye to your family and heading off to training.
I had two sisters. It probably hurt them more than it did my parents, because I was real close to them, and well, I was close to my parents also. But my two sisters, we got along real well together, and of course, they cried. So
Right.
Other than that, it was okay, because I communicated. I called every now and then whenever I got a chance, and San Antonio is not that far from home right here. So whenever we had an open day, well, they'd come down and visit me at Lackland, or I'd spend a couple hours with them, and then go from there.
Nice. So what was your specific job? What was your specific job or MOS? What did you do typically in a day?
Once I got out of basic, my first duty station was Wichita Falls, Texas. I went into aircraft maintenance, which was my AFSC was. I went into a 43131E or A, which is a reset mechanic. And of course, at there in Wichita Falls, so they taught everybody all the basics of an aircraft, everything from electrics to hydraulics to landing gears, flight controls, general maintenance. And so that's what I started out as an A. And of course, my training was I think it was a month. I think it was 4 weeks, and you graduate out of that, and then you go to your first duty station, which was they sent me to Tinker Air Force Base, Midwest City, Oklahoma. And
Wow.
I started working on, ma'am, I started working on C-124 Cargo Masters. That was the only recipe that Tinker had. Everything else was jets, was cargo planes and jets. So I spent, like 7 months, I think, on working on the C-124s, along with 2 or 3 other guys that I went through basic with. So
What did you do after
You
that?
learn. After that, I got my notice that I was going to Vietnam. They sent me to Eglin Air Force Base, Florida, for 3 weeks to learn the aircraft that I was to be working on when I was in Vietnam, which was the C-123, which was a small engine cargo plane that way back when it was basically a glider. They put external engines on it, beefed up the landing gear, and they used it for short takeoff, short landing cargo planes. Because in Nam, basically, unless you're at a base, you have a lot of landing strips that's just cut out inside a hill or in a valley or something other that's really not a real. It's a dirt strip. So they wanted something other that could take it and haul cargo or haul packs, which is troops and stuff like that, Vietnamese troops. So that's what I went to Vietnam on.
So, do you remember stepping off the plane in Vietnam for the first time? And what was what was your first impression of that?
What did I get into? It was in Cam Ranh Bay. It was the dead of summer and hot, humid. Of course, it wasn't the raining seasons yet, thank goodness. So, it was hot, and it's a different world. I guarantee you, anybody that's been there, will testify. It's definitely a different world. Of course, in Cam Ranh Bay, that's the main. You got Cam Ranh Bay and Da Nang are the 2 main entry points into South Vietnam. So that's where all the troops basically come into and process out to their detachment or their wherever they're going to go in Vietnam. So, but it's I looked at a couple of boys that I rode over the plane with, and we was talking about it, and it's going to be different. I guarantee you. So, yeah.
And you were right. So, speaking of the people that you served with, tell me a little bit about them and how you relied on each other day to day.
Well, once you get signed into your whatever flight or squadron you're going to go to, we're kind of guys that were there. They were basically every one of them nearly had a different AFSC. Some of them were security police, some were rotation, some of them were security police. Biggest majority of them were aircraft maintenance technicians. Some of them were clerical. So we just kind of split off and went our separate ways once we got processed in. The guys that went into aircraft maintenance, we had the 315th Air Wing, which is PACAF, and we had the 309th, 310th, and 311th squadrons. I was in the 309th. A couple of good friends of mine that I came over with, they were in the 310th, which was right next to our revetments, our comm shop, and our headquarters, or whatever you want to call it, that right there on the flight line. So I'd see biggest majority of them every day, and you're that close knit, so you develop a real close camaraderie with the guys that's over there. You watch their back and they watch yours. Let's put it that way. And we got hit all the time.
Really?
So, Oh yeah. Well, while when we was processing in, and I found out I was going to the 309th, one officer come up and we was, standing there talking before the flatline truck come and picked us up. And he said, he looked at, 3, 4, 5, I think there were 6 of us that was standing there talking. And he looked at us and he said, where are you from? And I told him I was from Texas. One of them was from, South Carolina, North Carolina. I think one of them was from your Tennessee. And he said, can you guys shoot? And we kind of looked at him and I said, yes, sir. And he said, good. I said, we're needing security police. We're short. So as of right now, y'all are augmentee security police. So every time you get hit, we went out with the regular security police, or, and plus we had a company of White Tiger, which is South Korean troops on our base. And they did a lot of the strike missions and stuff. If we had to get hit, they would go out and, and help the security police out, which great bunch of guys. So yeah, if I was working on the flight line and incoming was coming in, the sirens went off, well, I'd go back to the our flight line hooch and grab my hard hat, my flak vest, and my M16, and wait for the bus to come pick us up and then disperse us along the flight line, along the perimeter. So anyway, go to a tower or whatever, wherever they put us.
Yeah.
So,
And so obviously, you guys become a close-knit group. And what was it like for you when I guess the first time that those sirens went off? I mean, you're in a new country. You've not necessarily handled being shot at, right? So what's going through your head the first time that happened? Obviously, over time, I'm assuming you get used to it.
yes, ma'am. It just, you're right. You got 1,000 things going through your head. Am I going to stand up to, the assignment that they put me in and do what I'm supposed to do? Or am I going to, kind of flinch and not do what I'm supposed to do? But yeah, there's 1,000 things going through your head the first time you go out and stand in a tower or in a ground bunker or something other like that. Most time we stood towers, and but it's kind of hard to say what it affects you. I guarantee you.
Right.
But hopefully, I think there's only like 2 or 3 times that we actually had to stay in a tower any length of time. Most time, the White Tigers, once we knew we were getting sappers or whatever trying to come in on base, well, they would take care of the problems, or our own security police, along with the White Tigers, would take care of the problem, and they would call us to stand down and bring us back to wherever they picked us up at. So there was a couple 3 times that we actually went out and stood tower, and you're not by yourself. You got a couple of other guys that's there with you, so you got a little bit of company with you, and you can talk a little bit and kind of soothe each other's nerves, I guess you could say. So it wasn't too bad once you got used to it. It's not like the Army, where you're where you're on a hill like that and you got VC surrounding. I mean, we were where our base was at. We were sitting right down in the bottom, in the basin of what was called Charlie's Mountain. So we took 81 millimeter mortars or 105 rockets a couple 3 times a week. Trying to throw one in. In fact, the day before I got in country, they threw a 105 in on the 309 squadron, and it hit one of our 123s and blew it up in the revetment. So there's crafty dudes.
Yeah, I would say. And, war is never fun. So how did you stay in touch with home? I know you said that you'd call when you had the opportunity. And then how did you and your unit pass the time during any downtime that you had?
Well, mostly time, unless it was an emergency and the Red Cross got involved in it, you didn't call when you was in Vietnam. It was just by letter only. And like I said, unless the Red Cross got involved in it, we had, a loved one passed or whatever. But most time you just write a lot of letters. And of course, we worked at night because the planes flew all during the day, and then they'd come in late in the afternoon or whatever, and then we would work on it and put them to bed. And then, if it was still before breakfast time, well, we'd sit around and talk, or there was always a card game or poker game going someplace that, or you went back to your barracks and, sat around and drank the cold beer or, whatever. So, yeah. But yeah, there was a lot of conversation going on. So, but you got real close to the guys I worked with. Let's put it that way, and your supervisors also. They watched out after the troops too. Great bunch of guys.
Did you ever feel like you wanted some real American food while you were there? Like, was there every time you said, I really feel like a cheeseburger?
Well, you can forget about a cheeseburger over there,
I know.
Yeah, biggest majority of the time, the eggs were out of a carton, and I ate with Mom. Yeah, I ate with Mama San a lot. We had a Vietnamese lady that cleaned our barracks for us and everything, and she would always have rice and fish, or every once in a while she'd have kimchi. I could tell when a new kimchi pot was broken open because you could smell it all the way across the base. And I still can't go kimchi, but yeah, the chow hall was they cooked pretty good. Like I said, you never saw a regular egg; it was always powdered eggs. But everything else, and you had rice. I think we had rice 357 days a year. And for a long time after I got home, I couldn't eat rice. So, but they cooked for us pretty good. So, but no, I would die for a cheeseburger. So, instead of just a hard patty with a bun on it. But good McDonald's cheeseburger, or not a McDonald's, but a Whataburger cheeseburger would have been good. So
right.
But no, we had some pretty good food over there. So,
did you have an opportunity to mingle and get to know the civilians in different areas there, or were you strictly stuck to base? You did. Tell me about that.
No, there was a small province just right out of our base called Cham, and a lot of the people, especially the women that lived in Top Cham, they worked on base. Like I said, they cleaned, they did laundry, haircuts, just general stuff like that. We had a laundry there on base that I could take my fatigues to. Where I was a stickler on my fatigues, they had to be starched and pressed. I'm still like that. My blue jeans have to be starched and pressed where they'll stand up. But yeah, except it wasn't our typical starch here. It was that old rice starch, and you could smell it from here till tomorrow. But no, there was a lot of, you got to know the South Vietnamese troops or the South Vietnamese people pretty good. And on occasion, I went down into the town of Top Cham and looked at all the markets and stuff like that. It wasn't a real, but the people, most of the time, say the people.
Oh, you kind of froze up a little there. I don't know if you can still hear me. We might be experiencing a little bit of technical difficulty here, people, but that's okay. We'll make sure to get him back. While we wait, let's talk a little bit about the book from Michael Payne, Unshaken Resolve. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to see about booting him for a minute and have him pop back in while we wait. Because it looks like he might have had his internet. Yep, he's okay. So for Unshaken Resolve, for this book, we have 2 of these books that he has sent as giveaways when we hit our 1,000 subscriber mark, and they are autographed by him, which is absolutely wonderful. It's great that he did that. So appreciative. And this book, as I said, I mean, it's a lot about leadership and guidance, and that, you're not alone when you're going through and leading. It is what continues through the leaders that you develop to. It's just an ongoing thing. It's a great read. And he is a retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel. It looks like Mr. Wayne is back. So give me just a moment and we'll bring him back on stage and see if he is there. Oh, we're loading. We are loading. Yeah, it looks like maybe a little bit of slow internet, which happens to the best of us. So we'll put him backstage for a minute here, but until he pops up. I do want to say thank you, though, for everybody who has subscribed up to this point. It's been wonderful seeing those pop up in emails. And for those of you who don't necessarily comment in the chats or after the shows in the comments, I do know that you're out there. I do see those who actually are watching, and I want to say thank you for that, because it just helps to reinforce for me that our veterans' stories are getting out there. So thank you. I appreciate it. In addition to that, make sure after the show that you like, comment, and then hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. I know a lot of you are new viewers, and so it's really important to get notified. And the only way to get notified, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell as well. Let's see, are we up yet? No, not quite yet. Wayne, I don't know if you can hear me yet, but we might have to restart your computer. Okay. While we wait, some interesting things. So I am on now Spotify podcast. I'm also on Apple Podcasts. So you can go out there, search Conversations with a Vet, and there's a couple of shows out there as well. So super excited for that. We're going to be working on getting some other ones incorporated too. So make sure to check those out. Also, check out, if you haven't already, MB Radio, and that's Military Broadcast Radio. So they have been hosting me, thankfully, and we've been out there on Facebook and, of course, Spotify under their umbrella, and I think Roku TV and some others as well. So make sure to check those out too. Let's see. Okay. And then while we're waiting, I think we're going to go, if this works for everybody, go ahead, take a quick break. It might be a minute or two, and we will return.
Okay, doke. Most of the people that did the cleaning and a barbershop and the laundry were all South Vietnamese civilians that lived in Top Chop. And I had no problem with them whatsoever. I mean, they were, they were always courteous. They was always nice. They loved us being there because, basically we were fighting the North V, the VA, which the NVA, they would come to the villages beyond the our base, and a lot of times they would take the young men and force them into fighting for the NVA or the VC. So yeah, they liked to have the base there. Plus they made a little bit of money off from us too. So
That's always a plus,
they
right?
did a lot of the cooking there. Yes, ma'am. That's always a plus. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they did a lot of, like I said, we had a mama san that cleaned our barracks for us, and she cooked every day. And if you wanted to eat with her, she'd like that too. But of course, most time I slept during the day because I worked at nights. So, but every once in a while I'd wake up. If it was too hot to sleep, I'd get up and sit there and talk with her, or try to carry on a conversation in Vietnamese, which was poorly. So, but you learn a little bit over there. So
I bet you would. Yeah.
They liked having us there, I think.
Nice. So how long were you there?
363 days. I got an early out.
And were you just out of Vietnam or out of the Air Force after that?
Out of Vietnam. I went back to the States on my, I processed out 2 days early.
What was your homecoming experience like?
Oh, you don't want me to talk about that. No. Of course, you probably have heard about, some of the rumors that people encounter, especially coming in from Vietnam, as to how we were treated whenever we got off the plane. They found out where we were from or whatever. It really didn't matter. If we come in off to the base, they knew where we was coming from. We were, cussed on, we were spit at, we was called every name in the book. So it wasn't like the tie yellow ribbon around an old oak tree. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And it didn't, so it wasn't nice. That's one thing that has bothered me, from that the American people could do that to the troops that were fighting for them to keep, NVA, or not the NVA, but communism out of the United States. And they do. Of course, it wasn't everybody. You got the older generation of soldiers, airmen, Marines, Navy, whatever. They understood combat, but it was all your younger protesters that was behind it all. So then the shrink that I saw, we talked at length about that, because it bothers you. It bothered you all the time. So even the whole time after I got out, it was still in the back of my mind that they would treat us this way. Not only Air Force, but even the Army and the Marines that were on in Vietnam. So it wasn't nice, Carolee.
I cannot, obviously I can envision, but it's never going to be the same as going through it myself. for anybody watching and who did not go through it. That's all we can do. And have you had that where I know nowadays a lot of us, when we see a Vietnam veteran, and only because of a shirt or a hat that they're wearing, right? To say,
Yes, ma'am.
welcome home, because that's we recognize that you were not treated the way you should have been treated, and we want you to know that we are welcoming you and we're happy that you're here and you've made it back. However many years later, what does that do for you?
It makes me feel better that they recognize that we fought for for the country. But you see a lot of people just look at you and not say a word, even though you got a cap on that says, Vietnam veteran or Air Force veteran or Army veteran or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They could probably care less. We were at a youth retreat in Burnett. The guy that put it on, he was one of my former pastor and a good friend. And we went over to visit with him, and wife and I was leaving, and I had my Air Force cap on with Vietnam veteran on it. And this young boy, he probably was no more than 6 or 7 at the most. And he said, he come up to me, was walking out the door, and he come up to me and he said, are you a veteran? I said, yes, sir. And he said, you was in Vietnam? I said, yes, sir. He said, thank you for your service. He said, I want to be in the Air Force. Yeah, what can you say? He said, I want to work on planes too. I said, study hard, do a good job, and you'll get there, son. But 6 years old, but it's unreal that the number of people that don't even know nothing about Vietnam. It's not, as far as I know, it's not written in any of the history books. It's a war that nobody wanted, and so, and we were we took the blunt end of it. It didn't matter what service you were in over there. We took.
Yeah. I'm so sorry that happened. And I know as time goes on, we're trying to help make it right by saying welcome home when we see a Vietnam veteran. And I myself, for any veteran for that matter, and my husband as well, we're out there shaking the hand, saying thank you very much, welcome home, and just giving them the well-deserved recognition. So your time in Vietnam, you come home, you're dealing with all of that. What happens next for you once you get stateside?
Well, I had my next duty assignment already. They told me before I left Vietnam, when I processed out in personnel, the old boy told me, he said, oh, yeah. I said, so you're from Texas? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, 95% of the time you get, of course, you put down your base as a preference. And of course, I put down forever base in Texas, as far as Air Force bases. He said 95% of the time, said you get the base of choice. Well, I got my orders, and they sent me to Loring Air Force Base on Maine, 2,888 miles away from Texas, So
wow.
How can you figure, So, and a good friend of mine was from New York, and he got sent to Texas. And we tried to swap assignments, but the assignment that me had, he wasn't qualified for it. So I went to Loring Air Force, Limestone, Maine. So in the wintertime, it was 30 below zero, and 80 inches of snow on the ground. So, but it's a beautiful, beautiful state. A good friend of mine that I went through basic with, he was also up there. I didn't know it till I got on base, and I went to sign in, and he's the one that signed me in. So I knew some people there. So it wasn't that bad. I had good people working with me, good supervisors, and the only thing, they took me off recep aircraft and put me on B-52 bombers and KC-135 tankers, and I've never been on that particular type of plane before. So it's a new learning experience all the way through. So went back to school on come out as an E, which is jet mechanics. So, and I was in the shop, which I'd never been in shop. I'd always been on flatline, but they had a need for there, and I guess that's where I was supposed to go. So I worked air repair shop, and made new friends and learned 2 new aircraft, and egress, which is the ejection systems on B-52 bombers, that will blow the pilot and co-pilot out of the aircraft in case of emergency or whatever. He was the egress technician was in our shop, and if I wasn't working on something else, I'd go out. He was the only one, and I'd go out and help him pull hatches off the B-52s, or pulling seats, or changing catapults and thrust initiators out. And unbeknownst to me, he was fixing to get out of the Air Force. So the full-bird colonel that was our commander, he got wind that I'd been helping the egress tech, and he called me up one day and he said, I hear you've been working egress. I said, yes, sir. I thought he was going to chew my tail up, good for, not being able to work egress. He said, well, I tell you what, since you've been working egress, I'm going to send you to California to school. So here I go to California to egress school for a month, and, send me back as a, egress technician, the only one on Loring, Maine. He told me, said, anything you need, you let me know, and I'll make sure that you got it. So he kept me covered. So I worked egress the rest of the time that I was there. So, so I had a lot of training. But I'm afraid egress doesn't do me anything in a civilian job, though. So, but it was fun. I enjoyed working on different planes and stuff like that. So it wasn't, I didn't regret it. Let's put it that way. Saw some beautiful country in Maine.
Yeah, it's got to be gorgeous. Seafood? Are you a seafood lover?
Oh yes, ma'am. We were where Presque Isle was at. They had fresh lobster every day, and right beside the base, they had a little shack set, a little trailer, set up with fried clams and oysters, and just you could eat seafood 3 times a day if you wanted it. So it was good. It was good. And during the spring, the fall time, the trees are turning colors, and it's just, a picture does not do it justice. Let's put it that way. You have to see it in person. But the only thing about it, the people there too, and in Presque Isle, where the base housing was at, in Caribou, they did not like servicemen at all. There was a few families that I met that kind of took me in, but biggest majority of the time, they did not like. They'd tolerate you, but they didn't go out of their way to be real pleasant with you. So, like I said, a few families did that I met over there, and so it was a good time. I saw a lot of country.
Nice. So from there, where did you go? What did you do?
Home.
So you were out at that stage?
Let's see, what did I went back. Well, yeah, I was discharged there in Maine, there at Loring. That was my final duty station after 4 years. So I came back to Texas. I drove up there. It's from my front doorstep here. It's 2,888 miles to Loring Air Force Base. So I drove it back. Took me a couple of days to get back home, and I saw some more country that I would never seen. You know, kind of driving back. I took a different route. I went back through Virginia's, South Virginia, West Virginia, North Virginia, South Virginia, back down through that route, and saw some more country. Just took my time, enjoyed it. But yeah, I took some time off when I got home, kind of recuperate, and get adjusted to civilian life again. And my dad was a builder, so I worked with him a lot on houses and remodels and stuff like that till I found a regular job. So that's what I did. Reconnected with a lot of friends of mine that I seen in 4 years. So
how did your time in the service change your view of life and shape the person that you became after?
You're in the service for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. You got a structured life, I guess you could say. You're used to basically following the rules, and you get back to the States, there are no rules that, well, I guess you got rules, but it's not like living in military life where everything is structured.
Right.
Civilian life is kind of a whole lot easier, more freedom. Let's put it that way. But I still stand in attention to the flag. I still salute it, even though I'm a civilian, where I don't have to. As long as I put my hand over my heart. But I still, Air Force, Army, Navy, Marines, whatever, still would come out at, a serviceman, let's put it that way.
Right.
And I'm still, I don't know, you might ask my wife if I'm more structured. I do my own laundry, let's put it that way. And I still cook a lot on the grill.
Nice. Now, if you had an opportunity to talk directly to the younger generation, or even our listeners, what would you want them to understand about your experience?
I really don't know if they could grasp what we went through. Ben's never, the history books doesn't say hardly anything about it. The only way that they probably could see anything is if they watched a documentary on Vietnam. It's in the history books. As to what happened over there. You probably could talk to them, but I don't think it would do any good. I don't think they would grasp anything. I really don't. A few might, it may stop them and, let them start thinking about it a little bit. But, how much does our history books tell you about Vietnam? It's a war that nobody wanted. And so, if I'd had my way, the correspondents over there would probably have made it home, because they didn't write about how everything was over there. They wrote about what they wanted to, that we shouldn't be there, that it was a waste of time, a waste of money, a waste of life, that we wasn't doing a bit of good. But I really don't know if it would do any good, Carol Lee. My personal opinion.
Well, let's move forward. And for the younger generations that are coming into adulthood and are looking to join the military, regardless of branch, what words of wisdom do you have for them?
Do them good. Make you grow up. Guarantee you learn some respect on a lot of them. I saw a lot of guys come in basic training, and they had no respect for authority whatsoever, until they got put in their place. And then I don't know if of course, we never saw a lot of them, or I never saw a lot of them after we graduated from basic training or tech school. We went our merry way, our separate ways. But yeah, I don't think a lot of them would make it, let's put it that way.
Do you have any funny stories from your time in service that you can recall?
Oh yeah. If we got bored, especially when I was up in Nam, if we got bored, well, there was always one of the crew chiefs that needed to take their plane out for an engine run or whatever, or supposedly engine run. Kind of, a few of the guys would kind of get together and we'd load the cargo ramp with rocks, and we'd go out and chuck rocks at rabbits on the flat line. Just to break up the monotony of it, especially if it wasn't good enough for you, you'd already put your bird to bed. Some of them that found one of the officers, especially that was having a finny party that was fixing to rotate out. They found a couple of stashes of lobster tails up in the back of the plane, and everybody enjoyed them besides who they're supposed to go to. Definitely got in trouble over that. But, it just, or we stand in tower one night, and somebody kept chunking rocks at them, and I wasn't in this tower. They kept chucking rocks at them, and the boys that was in the tower requested illumination of the area, and there was about a 4-foot rock ape, had a pile of rocks as tall as he was. He was chucking rocks at the tower because it was in his territory. Just stuff like that. Something to break the monotony of it all. Yeah, But the lieutenant that was with the White Tigers that got to be real close friends with me, he would go into the jungle if they had a strike mission or whatever, or patrol in the jungle. He'd bring back fresh fruit and stuff. He brought me back a spider monkey. One time. Yeah, we had her in our tool room at the flat line, and we'd bring her back food out of the PA or out of the mess hall, or she loves chewing gum. But yeah, and she was just a friend of everybody's. I mean, you walk in there, and she was on your shoulder, taking your cap off, and checking your hair, see if you had any lice or anything in there, or whatever. Just stuff like that. But just something to break the monotony of it all. But,
did you have to leave her there when you came home?
Yeah, we had to leave her there. Yeah.
Dang it.
A lot of the pilot over there, the South Vietnamese troops, they'd rather walk than fly. And our pilots.
Oh, we kind of froze up there.
Okay. Yeah, the South Vietnamese troops, they had to find, if they loaded them up on a cargo plane, first thing they do, they stick 223 rounds in their ears because of the droning of the engines, and they just half the time they get sick.
Oh wow!
They just didn't like to fly. If they got sick, the plane captain would have to wash everything out on the inside. They did not like to fly for some reason. I don't know, but especially if they was we were taking them for any great distance, well, they had to fly. But we were, and the pilots found out about that, and a lot of them would just do their best you know, to agitate them, I guess you could say, they would, take off and then just pull hard back as far as they could. And, of course, they sat on the floor, biggest majority of them. They didn't have seat belts on the floor. So, they'd be rolling around all over the place till they did that one time, and a frag grenade came off one of the South Vietnamese troops' vest. So that kind of put a quietus. The base commander kind of put a quietus to all the pilots doing, trying to shake them up as much as possible. So after that, well, pretty well, took off normally, and, made it a whole lot easier for the South Vietnamese to fly. Or, they enjoyed it a little bit better because
I bet they did
what they were doing. It scared everybody. But I know my plane came in several times hauling packs, and where they get sick on there, then I'd have to get the water truck out and wash the back of it out and clean it all out on the inside. But it didn't bother me that much. So it just made me pass helped me pass the time of day or pass the time of night, because we worked at night. Planes flew during the day.
Right.
So, anywho.
Wow.
So.
Well, I have to say thank you and welcome home. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Everything that you have done and to help protect our country. And to me, it's just amazing that, for one, you volunteered. I mean, obviously you knew the draft was coming, but you stepped up to volunteer instead of being forced to have to go. And so thank you for that. And thank you so very much for taking the time today to come out, tell your story. And again, it's been an absolute pleasure. So if you want to hang tight for me here for just a minute, I'm going to wrap up and then I'll get back with you. Okay. So if you want to hold tight for everybody watching, thank you so much for joining, and we will see you again next Sunday at 6 p.m. Central Time.
Hi, I'm Beaker with Military Broadcast Radio TV. We're your virtual MWR, bringing veterans radio, podcasts, gaming, animation, 3D printing, and a community that never leaves you behind. Download our Roku or mobile app today.
Wisdom to share if you listen this week, so pull up a chair and stay for a spell. We're heading down a trail where good stories dwell.